The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
Welcome to Modern Business, the show that bridges the gap between viewer and entrepreneur. I'm your host, Taylor Bursey, and today we are joined by Ursula Kressibucher. She owns and operates the Sunflower Farm, an agro-tourism business in Durham region in the Kawartha Lakes. I am so excited to hear about her career growth as her farm has rapidly taken off since opening in 2020. Welcome to the show, Ursula.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm very glad you're here. Let's talk about what exactly the Sunflower Farm is.
Right, so the Sunflower Farm is an agritourism business that began in 2020, and I'm growing about 400,000 sunflowers across 2 locations now. And I invite visitors to come into the farm and check out our trails. As far as I know, I'm the only one doing a sunflower-shaped trail through the fields of sunflowers across Canada. I haven't heard of anybody else doing it, so that's our specialty trail through the fields. And then we also have our little merch hut and florist truck where we're selling local goods from other artists and bouquets that are all made on the farm as well.
Amazing. So just solely sunflower bouquets then?
I'm also growing different specialty sunflowers. So I grow about 10 different varieties of sunflowers for the floral truck and other specialty flowers like zinnias and dahlias that are also used in the bouquets too.
Incredible. So how did you get started in this business? What made you want to open a farm?
It was basically back in 2019. I was on the job hunt looking for work in the big city of Toronto and was kind of going the direction more or less where my education was. And honestly, I just kept getting a lot of rejection and interview after interview, people telling me either I was overqualified or underqualified. So I kind of went back to the drawing board and I thought, you know what, if nobody's going to hire me, I'm just going to create a job for myself. And I come from a farming background, so I approached my family to see if I could rent 10 acres for 2020 and start this agritourism sunflower business. There's definitely a lot of hesitation with it, but I got the green light and here we are now, 3 summers later and still growing.
That is incredible. No pun intended on growing, I'm sure. And why sunflowers out of everything you could grow?
Honestly, sunflowers for me, I knew it was a flower that people were really in awe of. It is really spectacular when you're driving along the road and you see, a field full of thousands and thousands of sunflowers. Also, just on the agriculture side, it was a safe crop to grow. It's a very drought-resistant crop. And I was also going to be harvesting the sunflowers for birdseed production. So I'm growing black oil varieties, which is used for either sunflower oil or for birdseed.
That's incredible. And I think a lot of people, when they look at farms, for example, especially agro-tourism farms, they might think that the farm is operational in the summer months and then it just kind of disappears all seasons round. So how does it work for your farm? How do you sustain yourself 365 days of the year?
Yeah, I think a lot of people have that misconception that, I'm only open for the summer and then I'm done, I can put my feet up. But I don't think they understand all the behind the scenes work there is throughout the rest of the year. I mean, we still have the harvest in the fall and this all happens after I close the farm for the season. So we have the harvest, then I have the seed cleaning and then packaging. I'm selling the bird seed both wholesale to bird seed stores that do their own mixes. And then I'm also selling directly to consumers in the fall and in the summer. So I'm doing my own packaging of bags and then also selling directly to the customers and also a few stores locally in the area as well. And then there's all the event planning that goes on behind the scenes and crop rotation and crop planning. So there is so much work that happens behind the scenes that I wish people, got to see more of, but it's more that nitty-gritty, hunker down on your computer type of work that people don't see at the forefront. Yeah.
It's not as big and bright and yellow as a
No,
sunflower.
it's not. It's not as exciting as when the farm is open, that's for sure. Yeah.
Amazing. So talk to us a little bit about when you sat down and decided you were going to start your business. You were able to rent the land from your parents. Then what happened? Did you have a plan and a roadmap of how it was going to work for you?
Yeah, basically, well, honestly, back in 2019, when I created that plan and figured out all the logistics, insurance, liability, my family has had no experience running, an agritourism business or opening up a farm to, the general public. So getting all those logistics behind the scenes kind of in place. But then, of course, the kicker of it all was, in 2020, once the pandemic hit, and going through the logistics, am I even going to be able to open for the public, or am I going to have to, close down and just, operate for the birdseed side of the production? So that definitely was, that pivoting point, wondering, how do I have to adjust the business and, the restrictions in place. Thankfully, I was able to open in the summer of 2020 as an outdoor venue with restrictions, of course. But yeah, that definitely proved to be the biggest challenge there, of just navigating how I can open and still operate as an agritourism business.
And take us to the day you opened. Were you expecting to be so well received and so busy?
No, not at all. I definitely, 2020, it actually was a very difficult year. The pandemic happened. I was going through a lot of just personal grief. My grandmother had passed away a week before I opened.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it was just, there was a lot of things going on. So it was a very heavy summer. That being said, pushing through that and still having, pushing for my open date, and I knew I had to be ready for that, because the sunflowers, when they bloom, it's go time.
Right.
So once I opened, honestly, it was a bit of that quiet opening, and having friends and family coming out to support, and then all of a sudden it started to gain momentum quite quickly, and that I was definitely not prepared for that shock of just understanding how many people were interested in wanting to spend their time and money and come visit the sunflower farm. So yes, it was quite overwhelming after, I would say, that half a week or weekend to opening in 2020. It was really shocking.
And so when you first opened, you opened with the Sunflower Farm on 10 acres of your parents' land,
yeah,
with the trail shaped as a sunflower carved out.
So the first year, I didn't even do that.
Okay.
Because of the pandemic. I wanted to create things, very simple. And also I wasn't using the technology to do the shaped trail at that time. So it was a very simple kind of T-shaped, long trail, short trail options with a very wide trail to have that social distance spacing. So honestly, it was a very simple trail through the field. And then that's, when I had that great feedback from visitors and wanting to expand it, that's when I knew, all right, I need to make this trail interesting, and what's something I can do to make this an even better farm to visit.
So it grew obviously the second year with the sunflower shaped trail and things like that.
Yep.
When did you introduce, the merch hut and other vendors into your business? Was that year 2, or was that right away?
That was year 2. Yes, year 1 was very much kind of experimental. Let's see if this idea, is sustainable, is profitable. Can I make, is this a space that people want to come and visit? So it was very simple in that first year. I mean, I had the trail and I was selling a few sunflower t-shirts on the side, and that was it. And then once I made that leap into year 2, that's when I really was all in, and I had the merch hut. I had the truck, the floral truck, and making bouquets, and really, all these little ideas that I had, maybe one day I'll get to that point. I was all in. Let's do this and see how far away I can take the sunflower farm.
Absolutely. And this sunflower farm is located in Beaverton.
Yes.
Correct?
So that's my first location, and yeah, now I'm operating at about 20 acres in Beaverton, and then this past year I expanded to the Kawartha Lakes in Lindsay, and I have another sunflower farm there called the Little Sunflower Farm, because it's about 4 to 5 acres, that field.
Very cute. So do you stagger your opening times, or do you have 2 teams running each location?
I wish I could split myself in half. I still haven't figured out how to do that. So right now, yes, I do stagger the planting. So I have 2 fields in the Beaverton location that are staggered, so it allows me to be open for about 4 weeks in Beaverton.
Smart.
And then for the first time, obviously opening up the second location, I tried to stagger for a third field, which was definitely pushing it with, just the planting season and timing of the bloom. It's, in theory, it looks great. All right, I can time this all perfectly. In reality, I thought I was going to give myself a week kind of buffer of in between the 2 different locations, just to help, bring everything over, get the team ready in the new location. But I had about 24 to 48 hours to make that move last year. So in theory, it looked great, but in reality, it was a fast turnover. But I was able to basically get the 3 fields staggered planting for a different bloom between each field.
That's incredible. And do you have the sunflower-shaped trail at the Lindsay location, or so they're both?
Yes, they're both
Okay.
sunflower-shaped trails, and who knows, maybe that'll change in the future. But yeah, it's really neat when you can see, photography or drone footage that we have on our website and on social media. You can actually see the shape, and a lot of people have really, enjoyed. They give me feedback saying like, yeah, I definitely saw like when I was walking through the field which ones were petals, where the center was, where the leaf is. So yeah, it's great hearing that feedback too from visitors.
That is very cool. And you've mentioned a couple of times your team.
Yes.
When you launched, I'm assuming it was a bit of a smaller scale operation
Yes.
as you were figuring it out. How long did it take you to have to introduce a team, and what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, so year one was very much myself, my sister Natasha, who was unemployed because of the pandemic. Thankfully, she came on board because I wouldn't have been able to run it without her involved right from the get-go, just with the influx of people coming to visit, the amount of emails having to respond to and everything like that. And then, of course, that first year, it was definitely, there was moments where I'm calling up, any family member that was available to be like, hey, I need some more assistance here, for that first year opening, just not expecting the amount of visitors that we received. And then moving into year 2 and year 3, that's when I really started to hire kind of a core team, usually students looking for summer employment. And now I employ about 20 students every summer, which for me is also very rewarding, just seeing, bringing in, from a small community, being able to offer that employment opportunity for young students looking for a job.
And they rotate between the farms. So I'm assuming
Yes.
they start in 10 acres, move to the second 10 acres, then go to Lindsay?
Yes, so we operate for about 4 weeks of the bloom season. Some team members come on earlier during like the planting season and just general setup. And then, moving into the opening season and running our merch huts, the floral truck, the opening of the front gate, and then also our different events that we run throughout the summer too. And then we'll move everything over to Lindsay.
Wow. What a transitional time.
Yes, it's go time, and luckily, I have a great team that they can rotate through and hopefully not get burnt out like I usually do, working 24/7 basically. But yeah, I'm really thankful to be working with such a great team.
I can't imagine how great that team is, because it is a small tourism season, right? So you guys really have to be on your game.
Yep.
I did see online that you also offer elopements at the
Yes.
Sunflower Farm.
Yes,
Is that new?
We've had a couple so far, but yes, that is kind of one little snippet that I'm trying to kind of put my foot into, just offering a place for people to kind of have that more intimate elopement sort of getaway for their ceremony, only doing ceremonies at this point, and a photography opportunity for them to have just exclusive access to the farm at golden hour sunset for elopements.
What an incredible aesthetic opportunity
It is,
for those
yes.
couples. All right, when we come back, we will hear more about Ursula's journey to marketing the Sunflower Farm and what she's got coming up in the future. We'll be right back.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Hi, I'm Mark Grice, the artist. I hope you'll tune in and watch my program where I give you all the tips and tricks that you need to make successful acrylic paintings on canvas. You can start out with a photograph like that and turn it into a painting like that, right here on Rogers TV.
Hi, I'm Daryl.
And I'm Julie.
We're the hosts of the Mindvine Mental Health Show presented by Ontario Shores Centre for Mental Health Sciences.
Each episode, we get the conversation going by talking with experts and people impacted by mental illness.
Join the conversation with Mindvine.
Only on Rogers TV.
Lovely viewers, it's your host of On the Couch, Antoine El Hashim, reminding you to tune in for every episode of Season 9 of the longest running and most loved local queer talk show on Rogers TV. Check it out.
I'm Wendell Clark with a word about winning. We all know it takes a team effort in any sport and with any challenge. You can be a part of the winning team that shuts out impaired driving. Whether you're out on the town or just hanging out with friends, drink responsibly. Always have a plan for a safe ride home for yourself, your family, and your friends. You'll be helping to shut out impaired driving.
Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive sober.
Welcome back to Modern Business. I'm your host, Taylor Bursey, and today we are joined by Ursula Kressibucher of the Sunflower Farm located in Beaverton, and also the Little Sunflower Farm located in Lindsay. We are going to be talking all about how she marketed her farm and saw such drastic growth in such a short time. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks.
So talk to us a little bit about the marketing for your farm. When you launched, what did you do? Did you have a plan?
Basically, from the get-go, I knew that social media was going to play a huge role, I would say, in the success, if there was going to be success of the farm. So right from the get-go, I knew I wanted to get my face out there through social media, through Facebook and Instagram. And that was something that I definitely, was stepping out of my comfort zone. I was, not a social media type of person before this. I had it, but I didn't use it that often. And so right from the get-go, from the planting season and even planning process, I had to, put my face out there doing, those selfies, talking to myself in the middle of the field on a tractor. And for me, that was very awkward at the beginning. So, but I knew that that was the step that I wanted to do for the business. I wanted there to be a connection between like my audience or potentially my future audience and the farmer, which was myself behind the business. So for me, it was definitely utilizing social media platforms to really just get the word out there about the Sunflower Farm.
And do you have a hard time separating yourself as a person from yourself as the brand now because you've merged the two on social?
Not sure about separating them. I know how to put it away and not, have that around me all the time. But honestly, I just try to be authentically myself on social in my everyday life. So really just because I want people to know what's going on at the farm and, the hardships, the failures, the success, everything in between that happens at the farm.
That's incredible. So you also launched your website. You have full description of everything that's going on there. And I'm assuming you worked with Google and other maps to have people be able to locate the farm? Because it's kind of in rural areas,
Yeah, It was really a trial and error, building a website. I've never done that before, but just, watching YouTube, using build your own website platforms and a little bit of custom coding, which again, just honestly Googling how to do this because I had no idea what I was doing from the beginning. My sister, she definitely did a lot of, figuring out Google Maps, Apple Maps, just trying, making sure that people knew where to find us.
That's incredible. And earlier in the show, you mentioned how you have to rotate crops. Mm-hmm. So immediately what came to my mind is if you rotate the sunflower farm and the crops, how do you set an entrance and set a parking lot and stuff if the farm is always moving? Do you have a plan for how that works out?
Yeah, so that's the current challenge as I just wrapped up my third year, and this past year I did a lot of more crop rotations, so it was harder for people to see the actual sunflowers from, say, the road leading up to our entrance gate. And yeah, that is an ongoing challenge, just, navigating signage and through social media. It's telling people like, hey, we are still here, we are open. You may not be able to see the sunflowers from the road, but just come on up and then you'll see them. So yeah, that's still a challenge that keeps me up at night a little bit and trying to figure out how to make sure, that visitors know that we're still there and still operating.
But ultimately, you're going to remain in the same locations, just maybe a little bit further and a little bit closer.
Yeah, it's just going to be a little bit further north some years, and then maybe rotate back down to closer to the road, to the highway, where you can see it from the actual road. So every year is going to look a little bit different, but that's something I try to push through the education part of agriculture through my social media and just explaining that because there is a huge disconnect between, I would say, the general public and agriculture. We're more removed now from generations of of farmers, right? And there's not, there's some families who don't have anybody in agriculture now, so they don't have that understanding. So for me, it's really also for the agritourism business, pushing that education side of agriculture at the Sunflower Farm.
And let's dive into the education side. I think we've well covered the forward-facing stuff. You've got a sunflower farm, you have your merch tent, your merch bus with the flowers and all that good stuff. When the tourism part fades, the seasons become to get a little bit colder and stuff like that, you actually harvest your sunflowers for birdseed.
Yes.
Talk to us a little bit about that process. How did you even know how to do that?
Yeah, I didn't. So it was a lot of researching again, like for the planting and harvesting side. It was working with, individuals in my family, my dad, my brother, who have experience obviously in their cash cropping side of the farm and their business, just understanding how to actually harvest sunflowers. It was a crop that none of us had any experience with. So it was a lot of trial and error, and year to year, we're making adjustments and just planning maybe a little bit differently. And yeah, it's honestly just that learning curve of just diving in, jumping in and figuring it out, and as you go, doing your research, trial and error, everything like that.
And you mentioned that you wholesale your birdseed.
Yeah.
Did you reach out to companies to create that deal? How did you facilitate that part of it?
Yeah, again, it's a lot of that behind the scenes work, calling up different stores, seeing, who wants, local sunflowers grown right here in Durham region and in the Kawartha Lakes, and seeing what sort of other stores want to work with a local producer. So, yeah, of course, there's some people who aren't interested, and then you'll find the ones that, really value that. It's something, close to home, and people, I would say more and more individuals, the general public, is wanting something that is locally produced. So yeah, it's just a lot of cold calling and sometimes rejections, but then sometimes you'll have a connection and you go from there.
And with the people that are wanting that locally produced birdseed, are they coming directly to you as well to purchase straight from you?
Yeah, so usually I do a one-day sale of large birdseed bags at the farm in the fall. That way, individuals can stock up on their birdseed for the winter, and just because too, I'm usually closed throughout the winter months anyways. I don't have a general store where I'm just open year-round. So I do that one-day sale for birdseed, and then I sell also during the summer months at the Sunflower Farm as well. But then people, if they want more bags, they can find them at their local feed supply store, or where I sell the wholesale bulk seed too, and where they do their own mixes for birdseed.
So do you ever, in theory, have downtime?
Yes, there is some downtime, thank goodness, because yes, the life right now, I would say that work-life balance is something I'm still working on. You go from being crazy busy spring, summer, fall with very little time off, or maybe no time off at all. Then where you go, into the winter months, where that's when you kind of get to at least take a breath and breathe, and hopefully take some time off too to kind of recharge again for the next season. So it's something I'm still working on.
Well, I feel we are all still working on it in some capacity, so don't be too hard on yourself. And you know what? I was so excited to talk about the birdseed that we haven't really dove into your second location at all.
Yes.
What was that like? Is that with family as well? Because you're renting your main location from your family, which I assume makes the process a little bit easier. How does the second location work? Yeah, so definitely logistics-wise of moving everything to a new location. Lindsay was far enough away from the Beaverton location that I didn't want to be moving any sort of equipment for the planting and harvesting side of the sunflower farm. So that's when I had to start to reach out to other farmers who I could work with and get custom planting and custom harvesting done at the Lindsay location. So doing a lot more collaborative work with other farmers and working there in Lindsay, different organizations that I'm working with within the Kawartha Lakes as well. So yeah, it was definitely a little bit more planning on that side of things, and basically just fingers crossed that a new community was going to welcome the Little Sunflower Farm there. And this location, the Little Sunflower Farm, has a pumpkin patch as well? Yes, it does. Yes. So I experimented for the first time planting pumpkins. Okay. I honestly don't even think I planted a pumpkin when I was a child. So it was, learning how to plant sort of, multiple acres of pumpkins was interesting, and a lot of MacGyvering and figuring things out, how are we going to plant thousands of pumpkins. And of course I made things complicated because I didn't just want to plant orange, regular jack-o'-lantern pumpkins. I wanted to plant white pumpkins, pink pumpkins, blue ones, and just have the full spectrum of different varieties of pumpkins and squash available for a pick your own experience.
So yeah, it was a challenge, of course, just adding more work than I think what I thought it was going to be. But yeah,
that's definitely what makes it memorable, right?
Exactly. So yeah, the Lindsay location right now is a sunflower farm and then pumpkin patch in the fall as well.
And how does admission work for the farms? Is it a standardized rate between both farms, or do you have different pricing for each location?
Yes, so generally speaking, across for both locations is the same price, the ticket price to enter the farm. And in both locations, I also have discounted days, like during the weekdays, we do some 50% off ticket sales. And then we'll have different ticket pricing for like special events that we do at the farm, music nights, picnics with a local collaborations with other businesses, and yoga nights. So we have a lot of different events that will be separate ticket prices as well. And that's just, different ways we're working with other businesses in the community as well.
And what was it like when you first partnered up with other businesses? Were you excited to do it, or were you nervous to bring in another quote competitor, somebody to take away from the sunflowers?
No, honestly, I loved it. For me, I always want to bring more people involved in the sunflower farm, more businesses. The biggest feedback I got from year one was individuals traveling like so far to visit the sunflower farm, and they were coming to Beaverton and they said, this is my first time at Beaverton, like what else can we do? Because they came for the sunflower farm and wanted to fill the rest of their day with other activities. So for me, it was always like, let's push tourism as much as we can to all businesses across the board, right? And let's work with these other businesses and see how we can collaborate and create different events and really just, make it profitable and successful for all businesses across the board.
And what has been the most rewarding part for you in opening the sunflower farm?
I would say it was definitely the people that I'm meeting throughout who are coming to visit the farm. I had no idea when I opened up the sunflower farm how far that reach would be, and especially during that 2020 year, how many people were just so thankful that I was there for them. That they were having reunions with family members that they haven't seen for over a year. They were having such an emotional time coming to the farm, because for them it was the first time they were out of their house basically since lockdown, and people driving 7 hours away from Timmins to come visit the sunflower farm. Like for me, that was shocking, right? And just seeing how much impact the farm had like on each individual visitor that came and wanted to make that an annual reoccurrence and come visit every year. So it's definitely the people that come to visit.
I could only imagine that being motivating for you to want to continue doing
Honestly, it keeps me going. It keeps me pushing, through the challenges. There are people that are wanting this to keep happening, and I'm here for it. And, as much as there's so many challenges involved with running your own business, I think any business owner can say that, it's a love-hate relationship that I have with it. There's days where I just want to throw in the towel and, I'm done, right? But then it's the people that keep coming back to visit the farm that definitely keep me going.
That's incredible. Now, do you have a trade tip for our audience today? A piece of advice that somebody's given you, a piece of advice you like to give others, or just a general tidbit of information you want to share with our audience?
Yeah, I would say definitely someone who was really involved in my life and during that planning process was my late grandmother, and she always told me just to try everything. She went through a lot of hardships throughout her life and business challenges herself in the farming world, as being a woman in the agriculture world, and she always said just try everything. So for me, that's what I'm doing with the sunflower farm. I'm trying everything that I can. Some are going to fail, some are going to succeed. The ideas that I have, and it's just pushing through those and learning from your mistakes and bringing something for somebody else to enjoy.
And where can people find you?
People can find me on social media through Instagram and Facebook at The Sunflower Farm, and then also my website, which is Thesunflowerfarm.ca.
Amazing. Ursula, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. This has been fun.
I'm glad you had fun. We have been joined by Ursula Kressibucher of the Sunflower Farm in Beaverton and the Little Sunflower Farm in Lindsay. If you'd like to check out her farm, please visit her website, thesunflowerfarm.ca. This has been another edition of Modern Business, and I'm your host, Taylor Bursey. We'll talk to you next time.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line. Email us or connect with us on social media.
so exciting to be the Bachelor. It feels like a dream.
Mondays on City TV.
Sparks are literally flying.
I'm here to find my best.